What if the electric vehicles that almost nobody is talking about right now are actually the ones that will age the best, survive the harshest conditions, and cost the least to own over a decade? Most people buying EVs today are chasing headlines, flashy ranges, and celebrity endorsements, but the smartest buyers in the room are doing something completely different. They are quietly hunting 3 specific electric vehicles that engineers, fleet managers, and off-road enthusiasts have been whispering about for years. These are not the EVs dominating commercials or trending on social media, and that is exactly the point. The fact that they fly under the radar is precisely what makes them so special, so resilient, and so undervalued right now. One of them was engineered to survive conditions that most internal combustion trucks cannot even handle without serious modifications. Another carries a mechanical secret inside its battery architecture that gives it a longevity advantage that rivals have never publicly acknowledged. And the third one has an ownership statistic so staggering that it quietly rewrites everything you thought you knew about electric vehicle reliability. If you want to discover all 3, make sure you subscribe, hit like, and drop a comment right now telling us which EV you think is the toughest on the planet, because by the end of this video, your answer might completely change. The first vehicle on this list is the Rivian R1T, and what makes it fascinating starts not with its specs, but with a decision its engineers made before a single truck ever rolled off the assembly line. Rivian built the R1T on what it calls a skateboard platform, but the way it implemented that platform is genuinely unlike anything from a traditional automaker, because every major mechanical system sits below the passenger floor, dramatically lowering the center of gravity in ways that change how the truck behaves in extreme terrain. Most drivers never realize this, but the R1T has a standard ground clearance of 14.9 inches and a wading depth of over 3 feet, which means it can cross rivers that would stall conventional trucks without a single modification. The quad-motor variant produces over 800 horsepower and reaches 60 miles per hour in around 3 seconds, which is faster than a Lamborghini Huracan from a decade ago, but it does that while towing over 5 tons. And this is where things get interesting, because Rivian spent years working with outdoor brands and the US adventure community before its launch, meaning the R1T was not designed in a vacuum but was shaped by people who actually use trucks in brutal conditions daily. The truck also features a gear tunnel between the cab and bed, a lockable pass-through storage compartment that is completely weatherproof and is wide enough to store a full-size camp kitchen setup inside it. Rivian's own software over-the-air update history shows that the R1T has received more performance and capability improvements post-purchase than almost any other electric vehicle, meaning buyers who bought one in 2022 are driving a meaningfully better truck today without spending a single extra dollar. But what happened next shocked many in the EV industry, because Rivian's partnership with Amazon for delivery vans forced the company to develop an industrial-grade thermal management system that eventually filtered back into the R1T, improving battery health in extreme temperatures. There is one detail almost nobody talks about with this truck. It has a front trunk large enough to carry 11 cubic feet of cargo, and it drains itself automatically so rain and trail water never pool inside it. The second EV on this list has a name that many people in North America and Europe still struggle to pronounce correctly, but in Asia and Australia it is already outselling vehicles that dominated those markets for decades. The BYD Atto 3 carries a battery technology called Blade Battery, and the engineering behind it is genuinely one of the most important stories in the electric vehicle world right now. Instead of using individual cylindrical or pouch cells bundled together, BYD stacks long, flat lithium iron phosphate cells directly into the battery pack structure itself, turning the battery into a structural component of the vehicle and eliminating an entire layer of casing and module hardware. What makes this even crazier is that during BYD's own testing, technicians drove a nail through a fully charged Blade battery cell and it did not catch fire, did not smoke, and actually maintained a surface temperature low enough to place your hand on it immediately afterward. That nail test matters enormously because thermal runaway, the chain reaction that causes EV battery fires, is essentially neutralized by the chemistry and physical design of lithium iron phosphate in blade form. Independent long-term ownership data from Australian buyers who have driven ADO3 vehicles over 150,000 kilometers shows battery degradation figures that put many established European and American rivals to shame, with some owners reporting less than 5% capacity loss after 3 years of daily charging. The cabin design hides something unusual too, because BYD rotated the instrument panel on a 45-degree angle specifically to avoid driver distraction during highway driving, a human factors decision backed by eye-tracking research the company conducted internally before the car launched. If you have never heard of BYD before today, you are not alone, but you will hear their name everywhere within 2 years. And the people who understand this moment are already buying. And we think you should share this video with someone who loves cars or needs to see this before they make their next vehicle purchase. Subscribe if you are not already part of this channel, and let us know in the comments what surprised you most so far. Because the third EV on this list is the one that will genuinely surprise even the most informed buyers in the room, and it comes from a direction almost no one is expecting. The third electric vehicle on this list has a story that begins not in Silicon Valley, not in Detroit, and not in Shanghai, but in Gothenburg, Sweden, where a brand with a century of safety engineering heritage quietly decided to build the most space-efficient and structurally rigid small electric vehicle on the planet. The Volvo EX30 is the smallest production vehicle Volvo has ever made, and it carries one of the highest safety ratings ever recorded for a vehicle of its size, achieving a 5-star Euro NCAP rating with scores in occupant protection that rivaled much larger and more expensive cars. Most drivers never realize this, but the EX30 was engineered with a single-motor rear-wheel drive configuration and a dual-motor all-wheel drive variant, and the dual-motor version does 0 to 100 km/h in 3.6 seconds, which puts it in the same performance bracket as dedicated sports cars from brands that have been building fast vehicles for generations. But what makes the EX30 fascinating from a reliability standpoint is where its battery comes from, because Volvo secured its supply chain through its parent company Geely's relationship with CATL, one of the 2 or 3 most advanced battery manufacturers in the world, giving a compact urban vehicle access to industrial-grade cell technology. The interior of the EX30 is a complete rejection of traditional automotive design philosophy because Volvo removed the traditional instrument cluster entirely and moved everything to a single central display, claiming research showed drivers found central placement more intuitive after a short adaptation period, and owner surveys after 6 months of real-world use appear to confirm that finding. And this is where things get interesting because Volvo backed the EX30 with a structural warranty commitment designed specifically to outlast the typical ownership period by a significant margin, reflecting internal confidence in the architecture that went into this vehicle from the very beginning. There is a hidden detail in the EX30's construction that almost nobody discusses in automotive media. The floor beam structure uses what Volvo calls a horizontal load path design, meaning in a side impact the force travels across the entire floor rather than concentrating at a single point, which is one of the reasons its crash test scores in side collision scenarios were genuinely exceptional. The EX30 is also one of the lightest EVs in its category at around 1,800 kilograms, and that lower mass translates directly into extended real-world range compared to heavier competitors because physics simply cannot be negotiated with, no matter how sophisticated your battery management software becomes. Volvo's own internal data suggests that EX30 owners are driving significantly more kilometers per year than the average compact car owner from previous generations, which hints at something psychologically important. When a vehicle feels safe, efficient, and effortless, people simply drive it more. Now that you know all 3 vehicles individually, the real question becomes, what do the Rivian R1T, the BYD ADO3, and the Volvo EX30 actually share that makes smart buyers pursue all 3 of them right now, despite being so different in size, price, and purpose? The answer is a concept that experienced automotive buyers call total cost of ownership, which goes far beyond the sticker price and includes charging costs, maintenance frequency, insurance behavior, resale trajectory, and software longevity. And on every single one of those metrics, These three vehicles perform better than their mainstream rivals. The Rivian R1T, for example, has fewer than 400 moving parts in its entire drivetrain compared to over 1,200 in a comparable internal combustion truck, and that mechanical simplicity translates directly into fewer failure points, lower service bills, and longer intervals between any kind of professional attention. The BYD Atto 3 uses lithium iron phosphate chemistry, which has a significantly longer cycle life than the nickel manganese cobalt chemistry used in most competing EVs, meaning the battery can realistically be charged and discharged over 3,000 complete cycles before meaningful degradation begins, compared to roughly 1,500 cycles in many rivals. The Volvo EX30 benefits from a supply chain and manufacturing process that Volvo has refined over decades of building vehicles in extreme Scandinavian conditions, so the sealing, the thermal management, and the material selection reflect an institutional knowledge of cold, wet, and corrosive environments that younger EV companies simply do not have yet. What makes this even crazier is that all three of these vehicles were designed with over-the-air software update capability baked in from day one, meaning the vehicle you buy today is not the final version of that vehicle, and documented improvements to charging speed, range estimation accuracy, and driver assist behavior have already been deployed to existing owners without a single dealership visit. Most buyers focus on the range number on a window sticker, but the buyers who research deeply understand that real-world range depends on thermal management, regenerative braking calibration, and software efficiency. And these three vehicles all score unusually well in real-world range consistency compared to their EPA or WLTP-rated figures. Fleet operators, historically the most conservative and analytically rigorous vehicle buyers in the world, have already begun moving toward both BYD and Rivian platforms for their commercial operations, and fleet adoption is one of the most reliable early signals of long-term product viability in automotive history. The pattern is clear. When engineers, fleet managers, adventure specialists, and safety researchers all point independently toward the same handful of vehicles, that is not coincidence, that is a signal worth paying extremely close attention to. Here is the thing that ties all of this together and makes it genuinely important for anyone thinking about their next vehicle purchase in the next 1 to 3 years. The EV market is at an inflection point right now where the first wave of hype has settled and what remains is a much clearer picture of which vehicles were built to last and which were built to impress on a spec sheet. The Rivian R1T proved that an electric truck could go places that combustion trucks cannot, carry more than people expected, and improve meaningfully after the purchase date, rewriting what adventure-oriented buyers believe is possible from an electric powertrain. The BYD Atto 3 proved that battery chemistry matters more than battery size, that a vehicle from a brand you have never heard of can quietly outperform established names on the metrics that actually matter over 5 or 10 years of ownership, and that the global EV story is far larger and more diverse than any single country's headlines suggest. The Volvo EX30 proved that a small vehicle with a serious safety philosophy and a mature engineering culture can pack more capability, more protection, and more long-term value into a compact form factor than most buyers believe is achievable at that price point. And what all three of these vehicles ultimately prove together is that the smartest thing any buyer can do right now is ignore the noise, ignore the celebrity partnerships and the hype cycles, and follow the engineering, the data, and the people who have the most to lose if they choose wrong. Because the buyers hunting these three vehicles are not chasing trends. They are building long-term relationships with machines that were designed honestly, engineered carefully, and backed by data that rewards patience and research. If this video gave you something to think about, something you did not know before you hit play, then do something simple. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the information that actually moves the needle. Like this video so more people can find it. Share it with someone who is about to make a major vehicle decision. And drop a comment below telling us which of these three EVs surprised you the most and which one you would actually buy. The best decision you make in the next vehicle purchase might be the one nobody in your circle is making yet, and that is exactly where the real advantage lives.